Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
And now, please welcome at this time your hosts, Graham GSM Matthews and RJ Marceau. You're listening to the next era of wrestling radio. This is WrestleRant Radio.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WrestleRant Radio for Thursday, September 5th, 2024. I'm Graham G.C. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. Very excited to get into everything Bash in Berlin from last weekend, NXT No Mercy, even give my predictions for AEW All Out coming up this weekend. A lot of wrestling going on between last weekend, the weekend before that, this coming weekend. Hopefully we can get a bit of a break, but I know we won't. WWE week is next week with Raw, NXT, SmackDown all airing on USA. We have the NXT CW debut on October 1st. Raw going to Netflix in January, but before then, Bad Blood in early October. I know it's only September 5th right now, but the following month is going to go by super, super fast. And Wrestle Dream soon after that as well. So we have a lot to look forward to, a lot to discuss with Mr. Marceau coming up in a little bit. Before then, though, I do have an exclusive interview with WWE Raw superstar Lyra Valkyria to share on the show today to talk all things WWE Speed, as she was on the show on Wednesday, the first female match on the show against IYO SKY. We talk all about that, her Raw run so far, being called up and drafted from NXT. We talk about Becky Lynch's whereabouts and so much more. So the audio quality is not the greatest. My mic was kind of messing with me a little bit. I've had issues with my mic on my new laptop and connecting it with my old laptop. It didn't recognize it. It's just the whole process. So the audio quality for the rest of the show is fine. For the interview, it's not great. You can also check out the video version of the interview went up yesterday morning before WWE Speed on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/WrestleRant. New episodes of WrestleRant Radio available in audio form every single Thursday on WrestleRant.com, WrestleRantRadio.com, and all your usual podcast platforms. Rate the show, review the show, subscribe to the show. Never miss a new episode every single Thursday. Now, that being said, check out my exclusive interview right now with WWE Raw superstar Lyra Valkyria. Graham G.C. Matthews here with Bleach Report and Fansided. Today we're talking to WWE Raw superstar Lyra Valkyria, one of the newest acquisitions on the Raw brand, taking part in the upcoming WWE Speed tournament for the Women's Championship. Lyra, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. How are you?
Doing great. Obviously, you're going to be going into this first matchup in the tournament, taking on a very familiar foe in IYO SKY, someone that you've had history with before on the main roster, and you guys have already shown instant chemistry. So, this is a pretty tough matchup for the first round. What can people expect from this encounter with you and IYO?
Yeah, this is a pretty insane first round matchup. Obviously, we've gone up against each other a couple of times on Monday Night Raw. First round to go up against, an opponent like IYO, who is probably the most skilled woman I've been in the ring with. I'm pretty excited. Also, having a victory over her, I do think I can get the job done. Again, it's going to be September 4th at 12 p.m. Eastern on X.
This is the match that I think a lot of people have been looking forward to. Stakes are high with you mentioning, the first match in the Speed Championship airing next Wednesday, September 4th. You guys are 1-1 on Raw so far. First matchup in the Queen of the Ring tournament a couple months ago. Obviously high stakes there as well. A rematch a couple weeks later with IYO, emerging victorious in that one. Do you guys feel like you've, or at least you, Lyra, talking about the instant chemistry that you guys have had and just two great matches to kind of kick off your Raw run? Do you feel like that was kind of the perfect introduction for people that may not have been aware of your time in NXT and having these great matches with IYO?
Yeah, it feels different being in the ring with IYO, so I'm really excited to see who will come out on top of this third match. Last time I caught her with a quick pin, and I feel like my technical style in a matchup like this, where you don't necessarily have the time to wear your opponent down to hit your signature moves, but 3 minutes you got to get the job done. I feel like my style is perfectly suited for this kind of match, and that's why I intend to become the first Speed Women's Champion.
I was going to say, the last couple of matches you guys have had, and pretty much a lot of the matches you've had so far in the Raw brand have gotten like an ample amount of time, which, it's very hit or miss with the men and the women. Some matches go short, some matches go long. Do you feel like, kind of going off what you just said, your style specifically, how do you feel like it is perfectly fit for the Speed Championship, where the matches only go 3 minutes, and so far they've been a big hit on the Twitter X platform the last couple of months?
Yeah, I guess it's a whole new way of looking at a matchup. 'Cause it's one thing to be able to beat your opponent, but to be able to do it within 3 minutes is a pretty entirely different challenge. So you have to like approach it completely differently. Maybe some like it's going to be fast, it's going to be dynamic. There's no really telling. You might just have to have a different strategy to try and get your opponent's shoulders on the mat for the 1, 2, 3 within the three minutes. You don't necessarily have the time to feel each other out or anything like that. It's just going to be bang, bang, bang. It's going to be excitement. Go, go, go.
It's cool to see too, because it's kind of crazy to see how far the women's division has come specifically in the last, 10 years. You mentioned in the lead up to Money in the Bank, that was when you started training, was around Money in the Bank 2014, obviously participating this year's women's installment for the briefcase, and how even 10 years ago, like 2 3 minute matches were routine for the women, but for the exact opposite reasons. Like that wasn't something that was favored as a good thing. But 10 years later, it's actually an advantage for you guys to not only, partake in this tournament, but compete for a championship that was not there even 6 months ago. So it's crazy to see, especially from your standpoint, as someone who was a fan, now a WWE superstar, to see how far the women's evolution has come in the last decade.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like when I started on the day of Money in the Bank 2014, there was no women's Money in the Bank match. So it never even crossed my mind the potential that I could be in one. And now here we are 10 years later. Of course, we have women's Money in the Bank matches. Of course, we have all the same things, all the same opportunities. But now, like, I get to be part of the first ever. So to be in the very first women's speed match is not something I take lightly. I'm really excited about it.
How was the experience in Money in the Bank? Speaking of that, I mean, it was cool that you got to be in it. You were a perfect fit for it. You had a breakout showing, but also at the same time, it's a ladder match. I mean, that's going to destroy your body. But I mean, that's what you got to do in order to win the briefcase. And obviously came up short, but a strong showing nonetheless. What was your experience like in the matchup?
It was crazy. It all happened really, really quickly. It was my first time in Canada. It was all huge. I think I had a better experience than Chelsea Green. I think she came out a bit probably the worst for wear of all of us. Yeah. Came up short, but like what an incredible experience to be in that match, especially around the 10-year mark of my anniversary in wrestling. It was just amazing.
Yeah, and just talking about those opportunities that you've had, participating in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, going as far as the finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament, now participating in the WWE Speed tournament for the women, kicking off next Wednesday. How have you found your main roster run? I know you've talked about it before, but how have you found your main roster run going for you so far, and getting all these opportunities and making the most of every single one of them?
Yeah, there was no room for hesitation. No room to second guess myself. The Queen of the Ring tournament started as soon as I was drafted to Monday Night Raw. So it was just out of the frying pan into the fire straight away. I had no choice but to catch the ball and run with it. And I really feel like I did. And, now I feel very at home on Monday Night Raw. But everything I handled in that first month and, making it all the way to the finals of the Queen of the Ring, I feel like I can handle anything now.
Were you as surprised as the rest of us when your name was called in the WWE draft this past April? Not that you weren't ready, obviously, because you've already quickly adapted to being on the main roster, but I think a lot of people had their thoughts or, sights set on Roxanne. She's the NXT Women's Champion. She's been in NXT proper for a little bit longer, although you've been with the company for a lot longer than she has. But your name gets called, obviously a worthy participant, or rather, member on the Raw roster. But your reaction was that you were surprised, and it was a really cool, genuine reaction. So were you as surprised as the rest of us, or what was like kind of the thought process going into draft day this past spring?
I was so surprised, like completely, utterly surprised. I don't know why. Like, of course you think, what if it's me? But until my name was called, I didn't realize how much I actually didn't think that would happen so as quickly as it did.
Yeah.
So seeing my name and, Monday Night Raw, Sean came out with the Raw hat and the Raw t-shirt, that was like, it didn't feel real. I almost, if you've seen the footage, I take so long to stand up because it didn't resonate with me,
Mm-hmm.
It
was
cool.
cool.
Really, really. beautiful moment.
Just an awesome moment for sure, especially for, fans that have followed your career dating back to not just NXT, but like NXT UK, right before COVID too. Like, you've been with the company for quite a while. I think people don't really realize that. And then now arriving on Raw, when at one point it didn't seem like that might be a possibility, with the NXT UK stuff kind of being its own thing there for a little while. But you had just lost the NXT Women's Championship and obviously had just unsuccessfully regained it at that NXT Live, or the Spring Break-In show shortly thereafter. So I think it kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of people. But again, you were immediately hit the ground running on Raw. And has there been any one key piece of advice that you've gotten so far on the main roster, whether it be from like Shawn Michaels, someone that you mentioned that was your boss in NXT, Triple H now running things in the main roster, any of the talent that's really kind of helped you, so far in your time on Raw?
I think it's been really important to just trust what I bring to the table. So that's been the biggest thing for me. Just trusting and being confident in myself. So
has that long been your mindset over the course of your career and your time at WWE as well?
Yeah, it's a crazy world and a crazy job. I don't feel like I work, but it's it's just like you're always going to have moments of doubt and that kind of thing. But when you really believe, I do think it's the little things you do every day when you bet on yourself that end up with, you coming out on top. That's worked for me anyway. So far.
Listen, you're former NXT Women's Champion. You beat Becky Lynch for the title. All the other success that you've had so far in WWE and just in your career in general, obviously, it's paid off pretty well, I think, safe to say, which has been cool to see. But speaking of the Becky Lynch win, a little over just less than a year ago now, it's crazy to think it's been that long since it happened back at Halloween Havoc. But you guys having some interaction on the Raw brand when you first get called up to the main roster. Obviously, she takes off, her contract expires. She's currently a free agent. Have you talked with Becky at all in her time away from WWE? And are you looking forward to her hopefully being back at some point so you guys can pick up where you left off, maybe in the women's tag team division, perhaps?
So I would love to be able to give you an insight into the mind of Becky Lynch. But if there's one thing about her is if she doesn't want anyone to know her next move, she'll keep everyone guessing. I can guarantee you that no one will know until she wants people to know what she's going to do next.
Well, time will tell. Well, listen, as we wind down here, talking about the WWE Speed Women's Championship, and you partook in the women's ladder match and the Queen of the Ring tournament, like we were talking about. I know you've mentioned this before in the last week or so, but a women's mid-card championship. This kind of feels like a step in that direction. It's been a slow process for a while. We had the tag team titles. I just mentioned that. You can find a partner, and you've been teaming pretty well with Katana Chance and Kaden Carter so far on Raw. Do you feel like this is a step, that being the WWE Speed Championship, towards a mid-card women's belt at some point, either on the Raw or SmackDown brand, or both?
Yeah, I think the introduction of the women's Speed title match is currently, the thing we're all looking at, the thing, the women on the roster are seeing as the next big opportunity. But of course, that would be very cool as well.
We're looking forward to it. Hopefully you can get past the first round against IYO SKY, like you said earlier, kicking off September 4th on X. 3-minute matches, started with men earlier this year, and looking forward to the women's matches as well. But Lyra, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. Congrats on all the success so far on the Raw brand.
Thank you so much.
Big thanks to Lyra for the time. Wasn't a lengthy interview, but it was a fun one nonetheless. So check it out in video form right now over on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/WrestleRant. Before we throw it to my conversation with Mr. Marceau to talk all things Bash, No Mercy, Swerve resigning, Asuka resigning, the Swerve controversy from last week. Feels like old news now, but we have a lot to say on that front with WWE's reaction to it and whatnot. I do want to give my predictions for AEW All Out this coming weekend. Now, the card I don't think is complete. I know it's not complete because we know Okada's defending the AEW Continental Championship, I believe against 3 other competitors. I thought he was defending the championship against one other person, the winner of a 4-way on Collision, but I'm pretty sure it's a fatal 4-way match, and I guess those people will be determined on Saturday's Collision. So we don't know who Okada's facing. Claudio will not be among them. He's in another match on the show. You would think he would have faced Claudio on the show, because their last match on Dynamite a few weeks ago in Cardiff, I think, ended in a time limit draw. So you would think we would get the rematch at All Out. That's not the case. But regardless of who Okada faces on this show, I do think he walks out still the AEW Continental Champion. Willow Nightingale taking on Chris Statlander in a Chicago street fight. They've had a very fun feud this year. This will not be for the CMLL Women's World Championship. I don't know why. I guess it's not sanctioned because it's a street fight, I guess. Even though Statlander did beat Willow in their last match in a CMLL Women's World Championship eliminator match. So again, that just doesn't make sense. And I do think Willow wins here regardless. The Young Bucks defend the AEW World Tag Team titles against Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club. They already hold gold. They're 2/3 the AEW World Trios champions with Pac as of All In, actually, a couple of weeks ago. So I don't think they take these tag titles here as well, but it should be a fun match. Mercedes Moné, Hikaru Shida for the AEW TBS Championship. This is a rematch from Dynamite about a month ago, I believe, or before, maybe in July, I don't know. But they already had a match. This is the rematch. Shida won a 4-way to qualify for this spot last week on Collision. This should be a really good match. No real uncertainty surrounding the outcome, though. I do think Mercedes walks out, still the AEW TBS champion. MJF and Daniel Garcia, they had a very good match, or rather segment, to build up this match. Both last week on Dynamite and this week, Garcia's been showing great fire. I'm glad they're giving him more of a chance to show what he could do on his own. I still think MJF walks out the winner here, and he probably should. He just lost to Will Ospreay at All In. He should not go back-to-back pay-per-views losing matches. Regardless of what Garcia's status with the company is, and I am confident he will resign, I think MJF wins here, as he should. Will Ospreay versus Pac for the AEW International Championship. I'm looking forward to more to this match than any other match in the show, aside from the main event, which we'll get to momentarily. I think Will Ospreay will retain the International Championship, build into an eventual match with Ricochet at some point, who is not on the show as of right now. Maybe they'll add a last-minute Ricochet match. I would not be shocked. But I think Ospreay walks out here still the AEW International Champion. Bryan Danielson versus Jack Perry for the AEW World Championship. Bryan Danielson got to handpick, or it wasn't a handpicked opponent. It was a open challenge of sorts on last week's Dynamite, and Perry emerged, interrupting Danielson, laying him out. He wants the shot. It was actually 3 years ago today, from when we speak right now, that Jack Perry was in the ring when Danielson debuted in AEW. So they have that history. Perry even brought that up on Dynamite last night. It shouldn't be a barn burner, but it should be a fun match. I think Danielson retains the AEW World Championship as he should. And then in the main event, what should be the main event, Swerve Strickland and Adam Page in an unsanctioned lights-out steel cage match. What a fucking mouthful. I don't know if this needed to be an unsanctioned lights-out match. It was already a steel cage match, so it's kind of like adding a hat on a hat. But that angle they did on Dynamite on Wednesday was fucking awesome. That picture that people were sharing after the show went off the air of Page sitting in that rocking chair as the house went up in flames, Adam Page burning the childhood home, apparently. That's Swerve bought earlier in the day with the money that he earned from the new contract that he signed with AEW. That was some pretty hater shit. That was some pretty vile shit from the Hangman. So this should be an intense matchup. Adam Page is 0-2 against Swerve. Their other match ended in a time limit draw earlier this year. I think especially since it's an unsanctioned match and the win technically does not count, I think Adam Page wins. Swerve, I still think, is getting the shot with Danielson at WrestleDream for the AEW World Championship in Washington, which is where both men are from, so it makes sense. I think Adam Page gets the win here as he should, and if he doesn't, I mean, maybe he's the one guy that is never able to beat Swerve. It's the one guy that Swerve can never lose to is Adam Page. I don't know. He's the one guy that Adam can never win, that Adam can never beat, I suppose. But I still think Adam Page wins here, and we still get Swerve and Danielson. Because it's an unsanctioned match and the win doesn't technically count, we still get Swerve and Danielson for the championship in Washington at WrestleDream next month. So those are my predictions for the pay-per-view coming up next weekend. We have a lot more to discuss on the show today as well with Mr. Marceau. So let's throw it to that conversation right now. Mr. Marceau, brother, what's going on?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We were just talking a minute ago about this, but I know you're excited for the return of Thursday Night Football tonight.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Who we got with going to the Super Bowl this year? Who's our pick? Don't even ask me because you already know my answer.
I was saying, do I just go chalk and just go Kansas City? I mean, I feel like it's the right. I mean, I sound like I said it's just straight chalk, but I feel like you got to beat the Kings to go to the. I feel like they have to be beaten before I can pick anyone else. So I'll go with the Chiefs.
Okay.
For the AFC, NFC. I'll say the Lions.
Lions. When was the last time the Lions won the NFC?
I don't think they ever have.
Then where's that logic coming from to pick them?
I just feel like San Francisco will be up there again, but I don't know. They played a ton of football the last couple of years. I feel like they're starting to break down a little bit.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm just gonna go with the Lions. I think it's my gut.
You got a soft spot for Detroit after being there last year?
Oh yeah.
And actually, as we've said many times, it was not as bad as we thought it would be. It was a perfectly decent location. But did you actually see this thing? I didn't have this written down, but I just remembered right now. My immediate reaction, I'm curious what your immediate reaction was. I think it was late last week that the report came out, maybe after we spoke, that WWE might be running Philly again for Mania, not next year, but in 2 years. Like, that's the quickest turnaround time I've ever heard. It did come out later. They did correct the report. I think it was from the mayor or the governor themselves that they were going to be doing WrestleMania coming to Philly 2026. I think they used it as a broad term probably for wrestling in general or just WWE or whatever, and not specifically Mania. But I saw that. I'm thinking, like, obviously we're in the Northeast. That's nice that it's close, but that just sounds completely ridiculous. But it did end up not being true, though.
Oh, okay. I mean, I saw that. I was like, there's no way they're going back in 2 years. It's kind of mind-boggling. When I first saw the report, I'm like, that'd be bananas if that's true. But
yeah.
I'm honestly slightly glad it's not. Like, you can't be going back again and they just kill the market.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Especially 2 years later. I think the quickest turnaround that they've had in recent years was probably New Orleans with 2014 and 2018, which surprised us when we, talked about it at that point, that they were going back there so soon after Mania 30, but Mania 30 was such a success, and I know you were there for that one, big weekend that they wanted to capitalize on that. A couple years later for, I think New Orleans is it was their big celebration of the city, maybe 250 or 300, however long the city's been around for. I think that's why they did it at that point. I know I've asked it before when we talked about Vegas getting Mania next year and all these other cities and states and countries getting all these shows in the last couple of months. What would be your dream location if you could go, and I guess regardless of the show, whether it be Mania, SummerSlam, Rumble, whatever. I know you had a great time in New Orleans. We enjoyed Nashville when we were there. Detroit was fine, and all these other places that we've been to for shows. What would be your ultimate location for a show? And it doesn't matter if they've even been there in the last couple of years, for a Mania, so to speak.
I'm actually surprised they haven't gone back to Miami yet. Since the last time they went there, they renovated that whole stadium.
For the football stadium, yeah.
Yeah, so, I'm surprised they haven't gone there yet. I think, like you said, they've been to Tampa a few times, but I'm surprised they haven't gone back. Like I said, especially with the new facility, the newer upgraded facility, I'm surprised they haven't gone back to Miami yet.
Yeah, you were there for a Dolphins game, right? Did you go there a second time? Or was it just that one time that you went, years ago?
I went twice.
Oh, you went twice. Okay. Did you see Dolphins game both times, or just that first time?
Yeah, I went to Dolphins game both times.
Nice. Hey, listen.
We also did catch a Miami Hurricanes game, too. They play there, too.
I was thinking about this the other day. I tweeted it, but on my random bucket list of just random shit to do, I have to see an NBA game in general. I've said to you before, I definitely got to get to a Celtics game one of these days.
It's a weekly thing.
I know.
Gotta go to a Celtics game.
I know. I got to go to a Celtics game. We've discussed this before, and you went earlier this year, and I got secondhand jealousy of you being there. I'm like, man, that just sounds like. And is the team even any good? I mean, they won actually. I was going to say, are they any good? They just fucking won.
Kids are they good?
I'm still stuck in the Phoenix Suns bubble phase. But yeah, no, I got to get to a Celtics game one of these days. And I was just thinking, I haven't been to Chicago in a long time. I haven't been in a few years. I need to go see a Chicago's Bulls game. I know that it's been decades since they were as great as they once were with Jordan on the team. I watched Last Dance, loved it. I would love to see a Chicago Bulls game in the United Center. But I think I got to go see the Celtics first at TD Garden. I think that's got to be in the bucket list.
Yeah, let me know.
I will let you know. Definitely in your neck of the woods. And the TD Garden's great. I've been there for so many wrestling shows, WWE, AEW, and it's a great venue, but I don't think I will have fully lived life until I see a Celtics game in that arena. But enough of the basketball stuff, enough of the football stuff. Got to ask you about some of the wrestling stuff going on in the last week. This came out since I last spoke to you. It is an AEW note, but it came out, I think, last Thursday or last Friday. And this shit was crazy. I think it was... the Wrestling Observer newsletter, actually, Meltzer, so again, take it with a grain of salt. It wasn't Fightful or PW Insider, which are a bit more, on point with some stuff. Meltzer can be very hit or miss, especially this year, so again, take it with a grain of salt. But it was reported about a week ago that WWE, after Swerve signed his new contract, now the former AEW World Champion, but still a top talent in the company, probably headlining it All Out this coming Sunday in that unsanctioned lights out cage match, in Chicago this coming weekend. It was reported that he not only signed his new deal, but WWE apparently not necessarily not happy about it, but not really understanding the value there and thinking that it hurts the market. I'm not sure why anyone from WWE would tell someone like Meltzer this, or where Meltzer would have even gotten that from. I'm not saying it's necessarily untrue, but just the idea of them thinking that doesn't entirely surprise me. It is a stupid thought. But that they would then share that to someone like a Meltzer or a dirt sheet, quote-unquote, writer, reporter, whatever. Again, thinking that it hurts the market. Now, I know they had said the same thing about Garcia. That one I can more so understand. We don't know how much they're offering Garcia, AEW, that is, to stay. I think the belief is that he is staying in AEW, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That doesn't shock me. I think he should stay where he's at currently in AEW. And if he's being offered $5 million, then I can understand it. But I think someone in Swerve's position, being a top talent, former world champion, and clearly a lot of upside. Like, this is not a guy whose best years are behind him. I think he can be a top talent for that company in the years to come. I think they signed him to a 4-year deal. These are his prime years, so I totally get that. What are your thoughts? What's your reaction to hearing about the WWE, thought process on that hurting the market? I can kind of believe that in certain situations, but with Swerve, that just sounds completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on, I kind of understand their thought. Depending on how much he's getting paid, like you said, if WWE valued him at X amount of dollars and his contract he got from them was 5 times what the market value was, I can understand what they're saying, because it's just you're just grossly overpaying for people because money's not an option. You could kind of say that, something similar with, the housing market now, a house nowadays costs 2 or 3 times what it cost 10, 15 years ago. So, where's the money value? Like you said, then the value of a house is going up, and realistically, nothing's really changed. So, I think it's just like you said, the market value. It's just if they see someone at a certain level. I guess you could consider the NFL. A couple years ago, when Deshaun Watson, he got the first fully guaranteed contract, and the other owners are like, "What are you doing? He's not the best." You're basically resetting the market, because now all these other players who are better are going to be like, well, he's making this amount of money. It's all guaranteed. I should be making that amount. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of where they're coming from. It's I think Swerve's great, but I don't know exactly how much he's making, but I think they said it was Okada Mercedes money. Seems a little high, but I just don't. Like I said, it all really depends on what they're offering him. If for Tony, the money's not money's not an issue, because he has an endless amount of it. So if you're overpaying all these people, it's just I feel like it eventually could get out of hand.
Yeah, it depends on who we're talking about here. Again, if with Swerve, I can totally understand him being worth the amount of money that they're probably offering him for a top deal. It was said that it's one of the biggest contracts that AEW has signed any talent to. And, when you put it in the same conversation as people like Punk, Edge, I'm sure, is not getting paid pennies to be there. Jericho.
What's Ricochet making?
That's really the bigger question. I think a question or a report like this, not that it's blown out of proportion, because if WWE thought that about Swerve, I think that's stupid, because I think he has proven himself to be worth that amount of money. Even in Okada, it's kind of funny, because you mentioned that he was among those people that they offered a ton of money to come in. And it might have, part of that might have been living costs too, because the guy had to move from Japan. Swerve already lives in the States. Okada probably had to be offered a lot of money to leave where he was in Japan to come to AEW. But he doesn't feel currently, he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Okada currently does not feel like a top tier talent in that company, based on how he's been booked and some of the comedy stuff, which I'm not particularly a fan of personally. But that's the bigger question with someone like a Ricochet. How much is his deal compared to the deal that he was making, the amount of money he was making in WWE? It's probably pretty comparable. He didn't mention whether he was offered a better deal to come to AEW compared to WWE. I think it just kind of came down to having more fun in AEW, and that's why he wanted to go there. But again, he's probably not being paid pennies either. I just think it's an interesting concept, because I think the market value, you made the house comparison, which is totally valid. I think it's probably dependent on what the market is willing to pay for him. I don't know if WWE would be willing to pay Swerve what they are paying him in AEW, but that's their prerogative, and that would be totally fine. I would disagree with that. I think Swerve would be worth that amount of money, but then you also think for WWE's end, they already have their top stars. They already have these people that they're paying a lot of money to. Kevin Owens, we talked about him last week, I think, his deal coming up and whatnot. I think the report was 3 years ago when he re-signed that he was making like $2.5–3 million a year, which sounds fucking crazy for a guy that's not like a top tier talent. I think Owens is awesome, but he's not a guy that's been like a perennial world champion for the past 8 years. I mean, he's been a mid-carder really. So I mean, it's an interesting concept. I think it's going to be it's going to come down to how much WWE is willing to pay for some of these people too. So I don't know. I feel like it's a case by case basis.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think depending on the person, it's definitely worth it. Like for them, for Swerve, I think they've invested enough in him that they think a slight overpay is like it's worth it for them. Like I think they lost Swerve, it kind of looked bad on the company, especially when we went to WWE again. So I think for him specifically, I get it, or someone that they've been pushing, but grossly overpaying on like Danny Garcia would kind of be like a head scratcher.
Yeah, not even Garcia. I mean, he's a guy that could be, I mean, will he be as big as Swerve? I don't know about that necessarily, but like I think he can be bigger and there's upside there. But like the amount of money, and again, if they're getting paid, that's great for them, first of all. I mean, more power to the talent itself. I'm just speaking from a company standpoint. And how much they're willing to pay for certain people compared to others. But like a Brian Cage or a Lance Archer, getting paid to really do nothing, I mean, must be great for them, unless they're probably creatively frustrated that they're not doing more. Cage has been on TV quite a bit this year. Lance Archer has been barely, like, for them to, for example, when his deal comes up, Lance Archer was signed in early 2020. Did he sign a 5-year deal? Because I haven't heard about him re-signing, so I'm not sure. For them to go ahead and re-sign him, what's the value there? They're not even using him. It's like WWE attempting to re-sign the OC 5 years ago to like fucking $600,000 deals. Like for what reason? What value is there in the OC? Even in 2019, let alone in 2024. I don't know. It's very weird on both companies' end, but you know, I think some people are worth it. I think Swerve is a guy that they can build around, and he's a guy that would be worth it. But on a similar topic, in terms of signing new deals and stuff like that, it also was reported earlier this week, this time from PW Insider, that WWE re-signed Asuka. Now, we have not seen her since, I think, May. She was supposed to be in the Queen of the Ring tournament. She got hurt. She and Kairi Sane lost the WWE Women's Tag Team titles back at Backlash. I think she was hurt even well before that, but she worked through the injury until dropping the belts in France, did so, and then took time off. I don't know why they would announce her for the tournament and then take her out if they thought she'd be taking time off, but regardless, she's been out since then. So apparently she was re-signed to a 5-year deal. And Asuka's an interesting person. I mean, she's one of the best people, one of the best female talents or talents, period, in that company. But she's an interesting case in the sense that she's done it all, but they're signing her to a 5-year deal, which tells me that they're confident that they can use her either in an on-air role, training talent, blah, 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 whatever it could be, and that she has a lot of value to that company. So it's a smart signing, but a 5-year deal seems like a long time for someone that hasn't really been used at a high level in quite some time. So your thoughts on Asuka being re-signed to a long-term deal in WWE?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I like Asuka, but I mean, I feel like she's done everything. It's like, I like Asuka. I feel like they changed her character a little bit, but I mean, like you said, maybe more of an off-air role, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like she's already done everything, and it's not like she's like a big star at this point. She's also, she's also older. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a decent signing. It's just, she is older too, I'm pretty sure. So, I don't know. I mean, I like Asuka, but like I said, I feel like she's also done everything. Yeah,
I'm surprised that she wouldn't want to, try out the free agent market. I think, yeah, she's older, but she could still obviously go. She's a great talent. You wouldn't even know that she's older either because she still wrestles the same way that she did a decade ago when she arrived in the company. But, it would have been interesting to see her in like an AEW. I know their women's division is loaded right now, but I feel like in AEW she could have had a career resurgence, whereas in WWE she's done the babyface heel thing so many times. She even tried out the face paint thing for a while. She's been a part of Damage Control. She's won every championship multiple times. I'm very curious to see what she does once she comes back and where she's utilized on the card, because I feel like maybe they see her as a reliable hand, kind of in the same way Natalya is, but she's much higher up in the food chain, I think, than Natalya. And I like Natalya seems like a perfectly fine person. She's never been my favorite wrestler, that's well documented, but she's a good hand to have around because she's, reliable and she can train the women backstage. Maybe that's where the value is, to your point, as far as where they see her long-term behind the scenes. If Asuka's at least considering in-ring retirement, I think anytime soon would be, might be too soon. Let me look it up. Let me see. I think she's 40-something. Asuka, she is only 42, so she could definitely go for another 5 years, definitely. Again, it's not like she's been slowing down by any sense. But like we were discussing, I think it's more of a case of, whether she's been doing it all. I mean, there's plenty of talent. Like fucking LA Knight is 41 years old or something like that. He's got another 5-10 years left in him. Same thing with Randy Orton. It's not a male or female thing. It's more of a case of how much can they really do? Because in the women's division specifically, they're much more limited compared to the men. Like Randy Orton's done it all, but Randy Orton, there's more he can do because there's more championships. Whereas with the women's division, I feel like there's a lot more limitations put in place there because there's only so many championships to go for. But I think it kind of goes back to what we've said before. Get rid of the fucking tag titles. I feel like someone like Asuka would be perfect for like a mid-card championship, helping the younger women, or even giving her a run in NXT again. I think would be cool too.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, I think she's just a good hand. I think she's good with she was good in damage control, and I feel like she could help Io and Kyrie as well. So I like her as a whole. Like I said, I'm not sure. I'm not pushing for like another title run here, but I think overall it's like a good signing. Like I said, kind of like an Orton or LA Knight, just like a good, reliable veteran.
Yeah, no, I would agree, especially for a women's division that could use more depth right now. They have a lot of women across Raw and SmackDown, but especially on Raw, they don't have a lot of talent that really mean much right now, but Asuka's always guaranteed to get a reaction. So when she comes back, maybe they can either keep her in damage control or try her out, try her out again on her own, whether it be working with Liv or someone like a Rhea, which we've seen a lot, but she's been around for so long, she's really worked with everyone there is to work with, but maybe at some point we could see her work with, some of the women in NXT or something like that. Like I said, bring her back down there for a little while, work with all the newer women. I feel like that would be a good use of her down there as well. But speaking of NXT had its No Mercy show on Sunday. It was a very good show overall. I thought Heatwave was better, but it was a good, solid show, which did feature the NXT Tag Team titles changing hands, Zachary Wentz beating Wesley, which actually really surprised me. He's the current and new TNA X Division champion, and he won on a WWE PLE against the WWE Superstar, NXT Superstar, whatever, in a great match. Wendy Chu losing the NXT Women's North American Championship match to Kalani Jordan. Definitely the weakest match on the show, but it was fine for what it was. Obafemi retaining the North American title, the men's North American title against Tony D'Angelo. Roxanne Perez and Jada Parker actually surprised me. That was a pretty good match. Jada Parker having her best performance to date, looking credible in defeat there. Roxanne's a star, so I guess no surprise on that front. Giulia arriving, as we expected that she would, confronting Roxanne. That will happen in the first CW show on October 1st for NXT. And Ethan Page and Joe Hendry was also a fun main event for the NXT Championship. Trick Williams serving as the special guest referee. Ethan Page victorious and still the NXT champion. So, from what you saw, Mr. Marceau, your thoughts on NXT No Mercy, their latest road show on Sunday night?
Yeah, I thought it was a solid show, honestly. I think NXT's been doing pretty good work lately. Like you said, I was stunned that Axiom and Nathan Frazier got the belts back. We were talking about it last week. I thought that was an easy, they lose and they break up, but we had the Chase U drama with Ridge and everything. So that was a bit surprising. Like you said, Roxanne and Jada was great. I mean, Roxanne's been an amazing champion, and I think she'll hold the belt for a couple more weeks, and she'll drop the Giulia at that first CW show. And I feel like Ethan Page is doing great work as NXT champion as well. So, I mean, stunned that Wesley didn't win either. Like you said, I thought, WWE show, clearly they'd have them all go over. But, I mean, it's a good little feud, and it's nice to give TNA a little bone. So, no issues on that.
Yeah, it establishes that the TNA talent will not always lose in WWE, and vice versa on the TNA shows. They have a lot of NXT talent on those shows, not on the same level of like a Hendry or a Zachary Wentz, but they do have some of their developmental talent on the TNA pay-per-views on their shows, and typically they also lose. So it's pretty fair, but it is nice when you see the occasional TNA talent go over on WWE TV to establish that they're more than just the TNA talent, that they're not beneath NXT and whatever, and it is kind of equal playing field. But it has been a fun, nice feud so far. Wentz going over. Next week on NXT, the Rascals are getting a shot at the NXT Tag Team titles. Now, MSK did fail against Frazier and Axiom a couple of weeks ago, which is what led to Wesley turning heel on Wentz and Trey Miguel. But next week, it's going to be Wentz and Miguel getting the tag team title shot against Frazier and Axiom. Now, I know the tag titles just changed hands. I could see them changing hands again here. Maybe the belt's going to the Rascals. but I feel like it's probably more likely to what you're talking about that Lee will likely turn on Wentz and Miguel to keep that feud going. I want to see the NXT tag titles defended across both companies, but I feel like it's more likely that the current champs retain and then the Lee feud with the Rascals continues by him costing the belts. Can you see that happening as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to continue. Like I said, I don't think he's not going to get a win back, so I think I'll continue after next week, and like you said, costing the belts will kind of continue the feud going.
Yeah, that would probably be the most logical outcome. The Frazier and Axiom thing is so funny, though, because I keep thinking they're doing this on purpose. They're trolling people on purpose because they've been teasing tension for months. But every team that they face is actually the team that ends up breaking up. Like the Wolf Dogs didn't turn on each other, but they did go to the main roster after they beat them for the belts earlier this year. Chase U we saw implode on Sunday. And then MSK as well also turned on each other. Wesley turning on Wentz and Miguel, like I just said, after losing to Frazier and Axiom like a month ago. And they're a great team too. Frazier and Axiom have really come into their own as a probably the best tag team in all of WWE at the moment. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, they've been great. Like you said, they're just trolling us at this point. They've been teasing tension for so long. You just feel like, oh, it's going to be this time, and it's everyone else. So, I mean, eventually we're going to get there, but I think they've been a fun little team going on for a little bit now. Yeah,
they've been great. If they don't break up, I would be happy about that, because I think Frazier, I think, is awesome. I think even Meltzer, who, is very critical usually of the NXT product, was praising Frazier the other day as someone like to keep an eye out for, because he's just on a different level than a lot of the other talent in NXT. Obviously trained by Rollins, so no shock there, but he's someone I would like to see featured more prominently in NXT and the main roster at some point down the road. But we mentioned Roxanne and Jada having a good match. Following that, Giulia arriving, you mentioned before. It's set in stone. I think we even said it last week here on the show. Not only will we get Giulia and Roxanne on that first CW show on October 1st in Chicago, but Giulia's walking out. The new NXT the new NXT Women's Champion. There's no doubt in my mind about that at all. But from what you saw of Giulia on Sunday night, or even on Tuesday when she showed up attacking Chelsea Green and confronting Roxanne Perez, I don't think I've ever seen a full-length Giulia matchup. Maybe I have in some of the matches that Mercedes has had in New Japan. Probably not, though. What I've seen of her has been through clips on Twitter and social media and shit like that. But again, this has been said ad nauseum in the past couple days, but she just has a simple, certain aura about her that just makes her stand out as a star. And I know we were already talking about her and praising her a couple of months ago, but what were your initial impressions of seeing Giulia making her NXT debut on Sunday and then again on Tuesday as well?
Yeah, I feel like every time anyone talks about, like you said, the whole aura conversation comes up, she just has that special look. She has it's just crazy. Like I said, I haven't really seen much of her in the ring. I mean, people talk about how great she is, but I think just her look and everything, she just has that star quality that not a lot of people have. So, like I said, I think it's kind of set in stone. That first show, she's taking the belt.
I think it's also been reported too, and again, from what I understand, having not seen many, if any, of her matches, she hits hard. She's a hard hitter. Now, I did see her attempt to hit the knee on Chelsea Green. It didn't connect completely at all. I think it's more of a camera thing. I don't think she was actually going to knee her in the face, obviously. They probably should have found a different camera shot for that angle. But beyond that, she came across great on Tuesday night. She's a hard hitter, and I've read that they will allow her to keep her hard-hitting style, allow her to keep it in NXT, which is not going to be great news for her opponents. But I think her and Roxanne are going to kill it. Roxanne's been a great champion. One last note on No Mercy. We mentioned the main event earlier. You said that Paige has been a great NXT champion so far. I think it's also worth noting, I know you're not like a TNA guy, but Joe Hendry, obviously a TNA talent, he has adapted very quickly and very well to the WWE environment. He was over fucking massively in front of that crowd in Colorado on Sunday night. He did not win the championship. We did not think he would win the title, but he had a very good showing in defeat. It was a fun main event. It wasn't like a Mac Classic, but their dynamic worked well together, and he came across like a star. There was almost a small part of me that thought on Monday when Bronson Reed couldn't go in that Intercontinental title triple threat qualifying match, whatever it was, that Joe Hendry might fill in because it was in the same city as NXT, but he probably flew out at that point. Braun Strowman ended up winning and advancing anyway, so that didn't happen. But yeah, your thoughts on Joe Hendry specifically, his performance in that matchup, if we've seen the last of him in NXT, and if you believe in Joe Hendry like the rest of us.
No, I think he's done really well. Obviously, I feel like he's probably been the TNA talent that's got the most out of this NXT merger or working relationship, whatever you want to call it. But no, I thought like I said, I think he's been well, and I think he's done taken kind of all the fame, and it's kind of paying off for him right now.
I agree. And we'll see where he goes from here. He competed for the top title and lost, but I would like to see him continue to make more appearances in NXT. I think it's also safe to say whenever his contract expires, whether it be next year or another point, he's definitely WWE bound. Jordynne Grace as well. She's going to be defending the TNA Knockouts Championship next Tuesday as part of WWE Week is what they're calling it. Because next week is going to be the first week that Raw, NXT, and SmackDown are all on USA, if only for a couple of weeks until NXT goes to the CW and Raw goes to Netflix in January, but that's what they're promoting for next week. As much of a certainty as Giulia beating Roxanne is for the NXT Women's Championship on that CW show, is it also virtually a guarantee that Trick Williams is probably getting that belt back from Ethan Page on that first CW show as well? Or no, you think Ethan Page might retain?
I think they should keep the belt on Page a little bit longer.
Okay.
I mean,
interesting.
I mean, I like Trick, but I feel like I feel like Ethan Page is finally coming to his own, especially after his AEW run. I think you keep the belt on him. I think he's done well.
This isn't much of a difference, but they've only had one singles match, and Trick won that. So I thought Trick might get the belt back as soon as this show, but kind of thinking about it now, Halloween Havoc is coming up in late October. Now, I mentioned it's not much of a difference, only a couple of weeks. And you say a longer run, I would like to see a longer run than 3 more weeks, but I could see Ethan getting a win over Trick maybe to open that first CW show, and then maybe Giulia headlines and wins the championship. I could see Ethan Page winning on that CW show, and then maybe Trick gets it back at Halloween Havoc or whatever.
Yeah, I think like I said, keep the belt on him a little bit longer. I've liked what he's done. Trick, I mean, like you said, he didn't technically lose the belt the last time, so he's definitely owed a title match, and like I said, I wouldn't be against him winning it, but I think Page has done well.
Yeah, he's definitely taken well to the WWE NXT environment, style, what have you, and he's come across really well so far as the NXT champion. Now, that was on Sunday. Bash in Berlin was the day prior on Saturday. Only a 5-match card. They're keeping these cards short, and they can't do this for every pay-per-view. We did talk about it last week as far as the smaller cards and whatnot. It was a quick 3-hour runtime. There's like a fucking 2-hour pre-show, post-show, but if you're not counting that shit, and there was no matches on those shows either, it was only 3 hours, which is nice. I don't think they can do that for every show going forward. For example, Survivor Series is in Canada, so maybe, but like when we get back to the US shows, they're going to have to start doing 6 or 7 match cards again. Like Fastlane last year, Payback, I'm pretty sure their shows had like 6 or 7 matches. I don't know if they can get away with the as hot of a crowds when they're back in like fucking Iowa and, you know, in Mass and stuff like that, which the crowds will be into it, but not as much as they were in Berlin on Saturday. But I thought overall it was a good show. Predictable. There were some matches that could have gone either way. I was actually wrong on at least 2 of my predictions. But overall, I did think it was a good show. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens might have been, to me, the best match on the entire show. I thought they had a great match. Cody Rhodes retaining was probably the most predictable match on the show. No heel turn from Kevin Owens, but he did further hint at it by bringing out the old Owens during the matchup, shaking Cody's hand afterward. Again, no heel turn, but the seeds might have been planted there, not happy with the loss. But they worked really, really well together. Some of the near falls were a bit silly, like Kevin Owens taking 2 crossroads rather, and then immediately hitting a stunner was pretty fucking dumb. That's like some shit that you would see in AEW or whatever at this point, but WWE's guilty of it as well. Beyond that, though, great match. So, your thoughts on Cody and Kevin, and Cody walking out still the WWE champion?
Yeah, I think Cody winning was never. I mean, I don't think that was ever in jeopardy. I mean, I thought it was, like you said, a fun match, but I think Cody winning was the right decision. He won. I feel like with Owens, like you said, I don't know if he's going heel or they're going to keep him face. It's kind of be interesting to see what they do with him. But I think it was a good way to start the show. It was probably the best match of the night, and I think the right person won. I
think they should run it back at Bad Blood. The pay-per-view's only a month away from today, from when we speak right now on October 5th. I think they should just run it back there. Now, I know Solo has said in recent weeks, I want next. I don't want to see Cody and Solo again. I just have no interest. We know Solo's not winning, and even if they were to do the match, which they probably will, on that first USA Network show next Friday, they'll probably announce it tomorrow, possibly. But if they do it on that show, we just know Roman's going to come out again. We just saw that at SummerSlam. What's the fucking difference? What is going to stop Roman from coming out this time as opposed to the last time? I mean, he's probably going to come out both times. So I think that's just kind of lazy. But what would you do with Cody Rhodes going forward? Who is next? Is it Kevin Owens? Is it Solo next week? Triple threat maybe? Is it Orton? What would you like to see Cody Rhodes and do next, and kind of mapping out his next month or so as WWE champion?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I feel like I want to hold off him and Randy. I want to do him and Randy right now.
Yeah.
I think I'd just stick with him and Owens for a time being. Like I said, I don't want to do Solo right now either. I think keep going with Owens. Maybe Solo after, and then heat up with Randy going into Royal Rumble time.
Yeah, I was thinking Randy for the fall. I mean, I had mentioned that a while ago, but I think at this point it would probably make more sense if they just wait until closer to Survivor Series or the Rumble. I would say at Mania, that would be the perfect Mania match, but I would be shocked if they didn't go back to Cody and Rock after what they teased on the night after WrestleMania earlier this year. So that's probably the direction they're headed in. Jade and Bianca getting back the WWE Women's Tag Team titles from the Unholy Unions, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. The weakest match on the show, but it was a fine match. It was a well-worked match. It's just kind of hard to care about the women's tag team stuff. From an in-ring standpoint, the matches are fine. It's just that the belts don't really mean anything, and more than anything, honestly, I was hoping for a Jade and Bianca split on the Sooner side. But honestly, now the fact they got the belts back, it really does feel like they want to stretch this out for as long as possible, probably until WrestleMania. That's fine. I don't really need to see this story go on for that long as far as them teaming in the meantime, but it's the definition of killing time. So thoughts on the match and Bianca and Jade once again being the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions and what it means for them going forward.
It's so bad. When they won, I fucking groaned like that. I was like, come on. I mean, I just don't understand why. Realistically, so why did he even put the belts on Fire and Dawn to begin with?
Just to stretch it out. Just to kill time. That's it.
Who cares?
And also to give them, they needed to have at least one Scots person, woman, whatever. Someone from Scotland had to win on that show because they had Drew lose, they had Piper Niven lose. They were going to all be losers unless they won that match. I think that's honestly part of it as well.
I guess. I just feel like it's just so lazy and just so dumb. Like, they actually started, the best part is they were never on TV. They win the belts out of nowhere. So you're like, okay. And then they fucking lose. They're all over TV now. They've been on Raw like every week. You're like, okay, like maybe they're pushing them.
Yeah.
They lose the belts the next time.
Yep.
Stupid.
Yeah.
And then you'll probably never see them again now.
Well, to be fair, I will give them credit on this front. Now, beyond this, I don't know. But they are getting a rematch for the tag titles. They won that match with Damage Control on Monday. So they're facing Jade and Bianca again on Raw next week. Now, after that, though, I do agree with you that we probably will not see them. We will not see them on Raw again. They'll probably be back to pulling main event duty or whatever.
Stupid.
I mean, again, it's really just a definition of dragging it out, and I do think this is an issue with the Triple H stuff. And I think overall it's great, but he does have a tendency sometimes to drag stuff out for so long because he does want certain stuff to culminate at certain shows. I don't see what the problem is with doing your first Jade and Bianca match. I mean, I don't know about Crown Jewel necessarily, but like doing it at Survivor Series. Like, why do we have to have the first match at Mania? Maybe they're going to do it at the Rumble. But, like, just for now, really? Like, can you have just done the first match of Bad Blood and then maybe Bianca gets taken out? I don't know. You also have to consider other factors, like Charlotte will be back soon. Could that factor into their plans? Could that mess up plans? People get hurt. I don't know. This division just means nothing. They have created more teams and put more effort into it recently. But I can only muster up so much excitement for fucking Pure Fusion Collective going for the belts at some point, like anyone gives a shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was hoping they'd get to this a little bit quicker, but like I said, I guess like other people are coming back and maybe more people coming up, but I just don't know why. I don't know. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. The match was fine, but I just can't really bring myself to care. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, again, same thing. Where the match was great. I actually really enjoyed the match. It was better than their SummerSlam match. More vicious, more intensity, worked with more of a sense of urgency in this match. Punk did win. But back to what we were just saying, I don't personally mind, because I always kind of figured, and most of us kind of figured, that they were always headed for a third match. Drew wins one, Punk wins one, third match makes sense. It's Wrestling 101. But I have seen and heard from certain people that weren't really excited to see the feud continue on Monday. Now, granted, it was more of the same with Drew attacking Punk and vice versa and whatever. The only thing that was different was Drew snapping the bracelet, breaking it, which was cool. I like that. Finally, we can move on from the bracelet stuff, presumably. Punk got it back in the match, and then Drew broke it on Monday. But this was always going to head for a third match, I think. I think Bash was just a midway stopping point, and now that they're tied with 1 win apiece, I thought Drew might win on Sunday. That did not happen, or Saturday, rather. But we're probably headed for a Hell in a Cell match. Now, someone did say on hashtag maybe Buried Alive. Someone mentioned a First Blood match for Liv and Rhea, but I could see it being applied to this match as well. I still think we get Hell in a Cell on the anniversary of Shawn and Taker from 97 at Bad Blood, the first ever Hell in a Cell match. So I feel like that's where we're headed. But your thoughts on the match itself and the fact that the feud's continuing for another month. Do they have enough in the tank to keep this interesting for another at least 30 days?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think it's probably, besides Rhea and Liv, probably the best thing going on Raw right now. I think it was always going to go to 3 matches. It felt like it was always going to culminate at Bad Blood, Hell in a Cell. So, I mean, I think it's following the formula. I think it's been good. Punk winning made sense. Yeah, I mean, I have no issues with it continuing. And he said the bracelet's gone, so I think we're just going to get a good Hell in a Cell match, I assume.
I think so, and I like the fact that, not really stating anything out of the obvious here, anything out of the ordinary here, but I like the fact that they're utilizing the cell, as they did with Edge and Balor, which wasn't a great cell match, but it was the end of their feud, and I like that this will also mark the end of the feud. And I said this on hashtag, I hated 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when they would use it as like a first match, or like a middle match in a feud, like fucking Punk and Ryback being inside the cell 10 years, or 11 years, or 12 years ago, actually, at this point. Wow, we're fucking old. 12 years ago at this point, it meant nothing, because it was the first match of their feud, and they've done this before. But for this feud, it means something, and I'm looking forward to it. I've asked this before, but do you think we could finally see, it might be too late now, in the build-up to Bad Blood, see AJ Lee make an appearance on TV, especially if Punk got taken out in a stretcher on Monday?
I mean, I feel like you haven't seen her yet, so I'm like skeptical. I'm probably like leaning to no, but I mean, I'm surprised we haven't got anything from her yet. I mean, like a quick cameo, that's all we're really looking for. So it's possible, but I feel like if it was going to happen, it would happen already.
I agree.
I'm going to say probably not, but I'll be hopeful that it's a possibility.
Yeah, until the feud's over, I would still say it's a possibility. I thought it would happen either in Chicago when Drew attacked Punk back in on SmackDown in June, or leading up to SummerSlam. Neither of those things happened. It's still possible. Now that the bracelet's out of the picture, maybe she shows up acting all pissed. I think it'd be dumb if Punk was back on the show this coming Monday. That would be fucking stupid after the attack that he endured on Monday. But yeah, maybe she can make an appearance in the meantime. She doesn't have to bring Larry necessarily, but an AJ appearance hearing that music one more time would be pretty fucking cool. Rhea and Damian beating Liv and Dominik in mixed tag team action. I thought this was awesome. I actually thought this was a really fun match. Rhea and Damian were over super over in front of this crowd, and they picked up the victory pretty decisively on the show. So thoughts on the match? And again, the feud's just getting started. We're going to get more matches, probably with Rhea and Liv, specifically at Bad Blood. That was confirmed on Monday. So, again, really nothing out of the ordinary here, but, your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. I was kind of stunned that they won. I thought Dominik and Liv would get the win here, and I thought the feud would still continue, but I thought they might get a win here. But no, they even just knocked out the Judgment Day, both win, and that's where we're going. I mean, I think Rhea and Liv make sense. There should be some kind of stipulation. Not sure exactly what it'll be, but I mean, I think they've done well, and that's where we're going to get a Bad Blood.
They've had a great feud so far, but I do worry a little bit that the focus is kind of shifted from Rhea and Liv to Rhea and Dom, and that's kind of where the Bad Blood, no pun intended, is kind of for right now, because Dom was the one that turned on Rhea at SummerSlam, and Liv beating Rhea was a big deal, but Dom turning on Rhea was the bigger focus. Even in this match, Rhea pinned Liv, and that was a big deal, setting up presumably a rematch for the Women's World Championship, probably at Bad Blood. But I think the bigger focus for me was the fact that Rhea did not hit Riptide on Dominik Mysterio, which is still to come at some point. I feel like the bigger attraction here is Rhea versus Dom, and not so much Rhea and Liv. And I don't want the focus to be completely off Rhea and Liv because they've had a great feud in their own right. And I don't know if that's fair to them. Rhea and Dom is also something worth looking forward to, but they got to tread lightly to not, completely overshadow Liv in all of this, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it should culminate with Dom getting his comeuppance eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could still have him take Riptide and then Liv still win, and then to kind of culminate it off. I mean, I think that's where we're probably going to get going here. But, no, I mean, like you said, I think that's kind of where the bad blood is, Rhea and Dominik. Obviously, Liv's there, and she beat her, but obviously Dom turned on her. It's not the other way around. So we'll see. I mean, I like it. I think, like you said, they still got to kind of tread lightly, but I think everyone can get what they want, and we can still, I assume Liv would keep the belt, but, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it right there, Dom getting his comeuppance from Rhea. Do you think it's possible? I mean, I know you would want to see it because I would want to see it too. Rhea versus Dom. They don't do intergender matches often. Rhea faced Akira Tozawa a couple years ago, but it was Akira Tozawa. It was a quick Raw match. We really don't see intergender wrestling much in WWE at all. I don't know if it's a PG rating thing or if they're just not comfortable with it, but if anyone would make sense in that situation, it would be Rhea Ripley. Could you see Rhea and Dom actually happening at some point, or do you think that it's just going to be as simple as her hitting her finisher on him, which we've already seen her do to JD McDonough recently on Raw? Or do you think that we might actually get the match at some point between these two?
I don't think they'll have an actual match. I just feel like they're kind of against that. I mean,
yeah,
it's like a man hitting a woman it's not the greatest headline, or I mean, especially what's going on with other people in wrestling right now.
True, yeah.
I think you got to tread lightly with that stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I understand it's scripted and stuff like that, but I think you kind of try to stick away from that, especially what's going on now. I think I didn't really think tread lightly with that stuff.
Yeah, the last thing this company needs right now is more negative headlines, so that definitely makes sense. I don't think we would see it anyway. I completely forgot about that, but even despite that, I still don't think we would see it. I would love to see it. I think it would make sense. Dom's he's not Braun Strowman. I think it would make sense to see him in the ring with Rhea, but it's probably not going to happen beyond what we saw on Saturday. Last thing from the pay-per-view, Gunther beating Randy Orton in a very good match to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Crowd was into it. They were doing the wave at one point. That kind of annoyed me, but they got over it quickly. I don't think it was because they were bored. They were just doing it because they were excited. But yeah, these two working really well together. An even better match this time, I think, than at King and Queen of the Ring back in May. And Gunther this time winning decisively. No controversy surrounding the finish. So again, pretty simple stuff. They shook hands afterward, which was a pleasant surprise. No returns, no debuts, no shock win for Randy. It was pretty straightforward. But I like it. I mean, I don't really have any complaints personally. So what was your 2 cents, Mr. Marceau, on Gunther and Orton on Saturday?
I thought it was a good match. I think I kind of hated the finish. I mean, the whole, put him to sleep. Didn't love that. Okay. But, I mean, I think the match itself was good. I don't know. I don't love the put to sleep. I mean, it's not really his finish. Didn't love it, but, I mean, Gunther winning was the right decision, but I don't love that he put Randy to sleep, if I'm being honest.
You think they did that probably to protect Orton, right? So he didn't have to get, submitted or pinned again?
I guess. I just feel like I feel like as a main event, it doesn't really leave a great taste in my mouth.
All right, that's fine. I can understand that. I mean, Gunther retaining was always the obvious outcome, but how they went about it, they could have just done it a bit more decisively.
I mean, it's Randy Orton. I mean, it's like he's fucking made at this point. He can lose clean. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I wouldn't have minded to see him tap out. I mean, I could see the pinning thing, maybe not, because they already tried the pinning thing back at King and Queen of the Ring, but if they had him I thought he tapped out and I missed it, but I guess he didn't tap out. He just passed out, obviously. But no, I can totally understand that. Overall, though, it was a very good show. Hot crowd in Berlin. Next show is in Atlanta. So it will be interesting to see. This is going to be their first show that's not a big show, and that's also not in a foreign country like Berlin or Scotland or whatever. They're going to be back in the States, and it's not SummerSlam. And SummerSlam was great. That was also a big stadium show. This will not be. It's a regular arena show in Atlanta. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of measures up to the other events that we've gotten this year, and if they give us more than fucking 5 matches on the card. And if it will be still around 3 hours or less or whatever. Last 2 things for you, Mr. Marceau, from Raw on Monday night. We did talk a little bit about this before we went live, because I'm still kind of in the dark about it as well. It's still a developing situation. Odyssey Jones gone from WWE. The weirdest thing, in that he debuted like less than a month ago, finally on the show. He was in NXT, got drafted a year and a half ago. It took him a year and a half to debut. He's on the show, a pretty big part of the show. He was getting over. He was a pivotal part of the whole New Day storyline with Xavier and Kofi. And then he disappears. He wasn't on last week. He wasn't on this week. He's off the online roster. And then it comes out from Fightful that he was involved apparently in a domestic abuse situation. And I think it was just allegations. There were definitely no charges, because I think that would have come out and we would have known about that. There's got to be more than allegations. If it's just allegations and they fired him, maybe that's their protocol. I don't know, because what if it came out that he was innocent? I don't know. I don't think he is, but it's just still a developing situation. It's very weird, but it looks like Odyssey Jones is indeed gone. That was also confirmed by Brian Alvarez soon after. So, your thoughts on the situation? For as quickly as he arrived on Raw, he's already very quickly gone as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I saw the report. I saw he was removed from the page. I was like, oh, interesting. I hadn't really seen other information. I wasn't really seeking it out either. And then I was in the hashtag yesterday, and you said it was over a potential domestic abuse or domestic incident. So, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, honestly, I think since he first debuted or was we last saw him, I honestly feel like he might have regressed in the ring a little bit. Obviously, he had wrestled in 2 years on TV. It probably didn't help, but I mean, he was a pivotal part and just gone like that. So, I mean, if any of it's true, I mean, it's kind of, he deserves to get fired.
Yeah,
so,
of course, yeah.
I mean, we'll see what happens from there, but, I mean, not like he was, destined to be amazing, but they were using him a lot, so it was crazy how they just dropped him, just like that.
Yeah, I think it must have been bad enough, or they had enough info where they were like, all right, because they don't fire anyone that quickly, usually. It must have been pretty bad to turn around and be like, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy. It is weird, though, because I saw the tweets that were public from someone that was tweeting at Odyssey Jones on Twitter, or whatever his handle is, accusing him of beating this person up or physically abusing them or whatever, and they were from July. That's before Odyssey Jones arrived on Raw. So I don't know if the company wasn't aware of it or if they were just recent. I mean, I can't imagine they were aware of it a month ago when they brought him to Raw and then didn't fire him until he was guilty. They probably should have taken him off the show at that point or not even had him debut. I would have to think it came to their attention just recently. And how it took this long after a month and a half and they only found out now and not earlier than this, I don't know. It's a very weird situation, but if he is guilty, then good, he's gone. I actually did think he had potential because he was getting over, and he wasn't the best in the ring like you said, but he had that natural charisma about him. We talked about it here on the show a couple weeks ago, but doesn't matter though. If he's guilty of what he's accused of, then good. He should be gone, but that the whole thing kind of came completely out of nowhere. And last thing for you, Mr. Marceau, Joe Tessitore making his debut this past week on Raw commentary as the play-by-play. And I thought he did a good job. I think he's better than Adnan Virk. There's still a lot of room for improvement. He's got to show more energy and enthusiasm, I think, at certain points. But overall, I thought he was a success on Monday night. What did you think, especially as a college football guy yourself?
Yeah, I thought he was good. Like you said, I think he needs to... I think he's just... it's going to take some time. So the emotion, maybe just his voice. Mm-hmm. Even when he's, into it, doesn't, it's kind of your, typical, sports announcing voice. I don't even know how to say, he has emotion, but it doesn't, it's just, he's, so deep. His voice is so deep, I feel like it's harder to, kind of come out. But I think he, like I said, it's his first night. I think he did well, and I think it's going to take a little bit more time, obviously. But I think for his first night, I was pretty impressed. Yeah,
and I think, like I said, he's only going to get better. And, anyone's first night is always going to be a rough go. And I don't even think it was a rough go, but, Adnan Virk was only there for maybe 6 weeks before they got rid of him. And he just wasn't destined for that spot. I actually, and I've said this before, I like Jimmy Smith a lot. I thought the MMA style kind of was a good fit for the WWE world. With Joe, again, like I said, you know him from the football world. He's a football commentator, a football analyst or whatever. So it's a bit of a different feel in WWE when you have to show more emotion, and even just the voice sometimes is a better fit for certain sports than it is for WWE. But I think it will come over time. I rewatched the attack on Punk from Drew, and I thought he came across well in that environment, and especially as he develops more chemistry with guys like Wade Barrett and whoever his partner is after Wade goes back to SmackDown, because Michael Cole's going back to Raw in January, and Joe's going to SmackDown. So I don't know if he's going to be with Corey at that point, because Pat will be back. I don't know what the teams will look like, but I think he will, it will come naturally over time. And like I said, you can't get much worse in recent years than Adnan Virk. But a bonus question for you. Speaking of commentators, who has been, in your opinion, one of the best or one of your favorite commentators that WWE specifically has had in the last 10, 15 years? Michael Cole's gotten really good. Corey Graves, I think, has come into his own as a great commentator. I think Morrow is still my favorite personally. I know he's probably not yours, but any favorite commentators from the past 10, 15 years in WWE? Because we've had some great ones and we've had some rough ones as well.
I wasn't the biggest Morrow guy. I mean, I know everyone I was obsessed with him. But,
no, he was polarizing.
He was too over the top for my liking.
Yeah.
Honestly, you mentioned him yesterday. I think Jimmy Smith is really good.
I
don't know why they did not bring him back. I don't know why they fired him, or it didn't seem like he really liked doing it. I thought he was great. I mean, I think he was probably the best person in probably announcer commentary wise in the last probably 10, 15 years they got rid of. That was like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was great. I feel like he had the right emotion. Like you said, the MMA to WWE's are pretty close, similar kind of emotion. I feel like he was into it. I mean, I don't know why they got rid of him. I don't really remember when they got rid of him. Was that still around when Vince was around? Yeah,
so it was when Triple H was there. I think Triple H was the one that did it. It was around the time, and I think it was October of 2022 when they did this massive commentary shakeup. They brought back Kathy Kelly. They brought Vic Joseph, replaced him. And I like Vic Joseph as an interviewer. As a commentator, he wasn't the best. He was fine, but Jimmy Smith was way better. So what was the point of that?
I really like Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Jimmy Smith a lot. I thought he deserved more of a chance, and I don't think he was in love with WWE, but he did a good enough job. And if the biggest knock against him was that he got stuff wrong or messed shit up, I mean, dude, Michael Cole got shit wrong for 20 years, 25 years. So don't give me this shit that he's like, he fucked up often. I mean, he was only there for a year and a half and not 25. And I like Michael Cole now as well, but, it took him a long time to really get as good as he is today. But, no, I would agree with that. But that is it for WrestleRant Radio. Today we'll talk more next week about whatever else is going on in the world of wrestling. New episodes every single Thursday on all your favorite podcast platforms. Rate the show, review the show, subscribe to the show. Never miss new episodes every single Thursday. Enjoy Thursday Night Football tonight, Mr. Marceau. And let me know if the Chiefs go over. I probably will not be watching the game live, but let me know if my Chiefs win. We'll see. Maybe I'll peep in at some point.
Sounds good.
Enjoy the game, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Join Graham, GSM Matthews, and RJ Marceau every Thursday as they run down their weekly wrestling rants, offer expert analysis, host exclusive interviews, and more. Subscribe today on all your favorite podcast platforms and never miss an episode of WrestleRant Radio.